If you're interested in making drinks for your friends that are so good it'll leave them throwing roses at your feet, then stay tuned for today's episode. Welcome to Cocktail Limelight. I'm your host, Erick Castro, and today we're going to be making one of my favorite ingredients to use. It's both luxurious and decadent, and it's also extremely easy and inexpensive to make. That's right, we're going to be making rose petal syrup from scratch using all natural ingredients. I don't know why, but for some reason, it seems that rose petals and flowers in general are criminally underused in American cuisine. All around the world, floral ingredients are used in everything from teas to beverage to food. But America doesn't really seem like we've really wrapped our head around it and incorporated it into what we eat on a daily basis. I mean, aside from chamomile tea, I think for the most part, rose petals and flowers are something that most Americans don't really think about in terms of beverage. Which is all the better reason to put in a cocktail because the novelty of it can spark delight in folks that you serve it to. In addition, you might find that rose petal syrup is surprisingly and delightfully versatile. Not only does rose petal syrup make a delicious lemonade, but it can also work its way into some of your favorite classic cocktails by switching out the simple syrup for this syrup instead. In fact, the possibilities are endless. And not only are we going to learn how to make it today, but we're also going to go over a cocktail of which you can incorporate it into. But enough of me chit-chatting, let's put the pedal to the metal and start making this syrup. To make rose petal syrup, first let's start out with a cup of dehydrated rose petals. Although I used a cup, if you want to go by weight, it's about 6.5 grams. The next step is to pour 1 cup of piping hot water over these dehydrated rose petals. Now let's just make sure that all the rose petals are submerged in liquid. And then we're going to set it aside and allow it to steep for about 30 minutes. Now that the rose petal's been steeping for about 30 minutes, we're going to pour this into another vessel and be sure to strain out the rose petals. Next, to make sure that we're getting all the flavor out of this mixture, we're going to make sure that we push down on the rose petals to make sure that we get all the flavor and liquid out of it. Next, to make sure that we're getting as much rose petal flavor out of this syrup, we're going to be adding 1/4 teaspoon of high quality rose water. Lastly, to finish the rose petal syrup, we're going to add 1 cup of white granulated sugar. Now let's give it a good stir before we set it aside and allow it to cool before we use it. But before we move along and make this cocktail, I just want to make sure that you all soak in my floral shirt, just so that you can understand the depth of the commitment I have to this episode. I mean, feast your eyes, folks. Feast your eyes. Do I have a rose tattoo? I don't know, I might. I don't really keep track of that shit. Now, as for the cocktail that we're going to be making with the rose petal syrup, it's somewhere in between a champagne cocktail and an Aperol spritz. And now that you have the rose petal syrup made, honestly, cranking one of these drinks out is beyond easy. The drink itself is called the Veronica Rose, and it takes its name from a stage and film actress from the 1930s and 40s. The woman was classy and elegant, much like this cocktail that borrows her name. But enough of me rambling on, let's go ahead and make one. First, we're going to start out with the chilled coupe, or a flute would work as well. Now let's pour a 1/2 ounce of rose petal syrup, along with a 1/2 ounce of Aperol. Now, since these first 2 ingredients aren't going to be shaken or stirred to made cold, I recommend keeping them on ice next to your sparkling wine to ensure that they stay nice and cold. And speaking of sparkling wine, it's time to top off the drink. And now that the cocktail is almost ready to go, let's hit it with a lemon twist to finish it off and really brighten it up. And there you have it, folks, the Veronica Rose. A cocktail where all the flavors will truly bloom as you enjoy it. I'm trying to see how many floral puns I can get into this episode. No matter what, I just hope that you all believe that I rose to the occasion. Maybe these 2 lips should just stay sealed. And there you have it, folks, a delicious and versatile syrup that can bring a vibrant and authentic flavors to the drinks that are coming out of your bar. And as I mentioned before, this syrup will work beautifully in riffs and variations on some of your classic cocktails. Now that I've showed you how to make one of my favorite sparkling cocktails, are there any other sparkling cocktails out there that you'd like me to do an episode on? If so, leave them in the comments down below, and who knows, maybe it'll be featured in a future episode of Cocktail Limelight. With that said, don't forget to muddle that like and subscribe button, and if you'd like to dive deeper into the world of craft cocktails with me, be sure to check out the Bartender Large podcast, which I host on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere else where quality podcasts are found. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you again next week.